And we have Tommy Malachek's in the crowd. Hey, Tommy.
How you doing, boys?
Welcome. Welcome back.
Good seeing you.
See how big his hand looked in that picture?
His hand looked big in that picture, almost as big as his melon.
You know what they say about big hands?
Big
gloves. Big forehead.
Big gloves.
Hey, Checkster, we're going to start off real quick because we suffered a loss in St. Louis this week. And so, it really hit us hard. And you have a few stories about Brian McKenna. He was tragically lost in an auto accident on what night? Friday night?
Right.
No, Saturday night.
Late Friday, early Saturday. And, but one of the things, Tommy Malachek is also very big on the south side of St. Louis, at the Berg, St. Louis Hills area, as a lot of us were hung around there and lived in that area for a long period of time. But one of the things we wanted to do is just, kind of remember Brian. Hopefully we don't get too emotional, but he just meant so much to a lot of us, and we brought Tommy on because Tommy ran that area, and Brian was and Tommy was very instrumental, and we all were in putting this show together. And one of the things that Brian was an advisor of ours, and he would say, okay, do this or do that or don't do this, but he was always just a great guy and did anything he could help. He got me and JJ on the Dave Glover show. Right. So he would do anything he could for us. But one of the things that, and then Tommy, you would run into him at wherever we would run into him, and he was like, "You guys ready to start that podcast yet?" One of the things he told me though is, he's like, "Hey, listen, everybody talks about crime. It doesn't take three of you to talk about crime or four of you or whatever." He goes, "You guys need to let your personalities show and talk about other things other than police work, but talk about police work, but talk about other things." And he was funny, and he actually said the words, he goes, like, "If you guys would talk about Taylor Swift, that would be funny." He goes, that's just, but then in show, and Tommy, when you were on, remember we were talking about the Pope and the sentencing and or the clemency that he gave out. But as part of that story, we got it off rail, as we always do. But we started talking about who was more popular, the Pope or who's the most popular person. And JJ actually brought up, it might be Taylor Swift. Well, that right there, that show, I thought of Brian McKenna.
Yeah.
The Archbishop steered the Pope as he came off the altar to say goodbye to the president and vice president and governor. And when he reached the governor, he grabbed the governor's hand and he said, "Mr. Governor, I'm asking for mercy on Mr. Daryl Meese's life."
Daryl Meese's?
Yeah, that was the gentleman that was scheduled to be executed. So the governor said it will be done. And he thanked him.
So that's when he made the decision, as far as you knew?
Mm-hmm.
That's when the decision was made?
That's when I heard, yeah.
So is he still alive?
He is. Life without parole. He killed 3 people at dope. It was over dope. He hid out, ambushed his dope partner.
Any chance of getting him back on death row?
He's rolling, man. He's rolling.
I mean, you just told me what he did.
It'd be hard to look the Pope in the eye and say no.
All right.
I'm sorry.
That's what the governor said.
I'm serious about this. Isn't he the most popular person on earth?
Well known.
Correct?
I wouldn't say popular.
Or most known.
Well,
I don't know that he's most known.
No, Elvis is still the most popular.
I would say powerful. Most powerful.
He is.
Not Elvis.
Muhammad Ali?
Oh, Lord.
Are you just guessing who's more popular than the Pope?
Taylor Swift.
Well, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Because that's just the kind of guy he was, and and when we were having our troubles on the live shows, he was chiming in, and
he was.
He was just a great guy.
He was always, Tommy, not to interrupt you, but I think of Brian McKenna and his willingness to help us, and not only us, but anybody that needed help. Brian was always there for anybody, but he really took an interest in our podcast and what to do, what not to do. Like Tommy referenced, he was one of our first calls on what to do and not to do. Tommy, Brian, and I were on the phone, and he said, "I'm here for you guys, whatever you need. I love the police. I'm a big supporter of the police." He has a wonderful family. They're all pro-police, but I think of Brian McKenna, and I think of his willingness to help.
Absolutely.
I haven't met one person that said a bad word about Brian
No
McKenna.
way. Yeah,
Not
I
one.
agree.
Not a.
So, at any rate, he will be lost. A big loss there, man.
Absolutely. And JJ,
So-
you grew up with him and went to college with him, correct?
We played soccer, junior college, but I known him since grade school. And I was
Yeah.
telling somebody earlier, Kevin, his twin, I was texting with him last week, or a few days ago actually, but I remember Brian, and he was a really good athlete. He went to Providence. I went to St. Matthias. We played basketball against each other. And I told Kevin in a text, I really didn't like him at first because he was really good. He could jump out of the gym. He was a tough kid. And they had a really good team. And they were rivals. Providence, St. Matthias, and Seven Holy Founders were the three best teams in St. Louis County, whatever. And he was just a tough kid. And I just knew it. And he had a really good team. I wasn't that fond of him at first because, he was kind of cocky.
Yeah.
Brian McKenna could jump.
He could jump out of the gym, dude.
Are you serious?
He was a really, really good athlete, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah, he was.
I played hockey against him, ice hockey against him. I played basketball against him. I played soccer with him. He could do it all. But I told Kevin, the thing that really brought me was really like when I first met Brian. Brian came up to me after our very last basketball game in 8th grade, and he came and shook my hand. And he said, "Hey, brother," and we had a conversation. I'm like, "This dude is really cool." And I got to know him. He went to Lindbergh, went to Melville, and we became friends. And then we went to junior college together, and we played soccer together. And he was the funniest guy. I mean, he was a true character, and everybody knows that. And that's just Brian in a nutshell. I thought he was, and when I was young, I thought, "Hey, this guy, he's whatever." And then I realized, early on, this guy is just a great dude. And I told a story about him on an earlier podcast about us going to Cape on a soccer trip, and Kevin was involved. And it's kind of funny. I'm not going to tell the story again, but Brian was a great man, and he's got so many friends out there that it's just unreal. Someone said he's the most famous, non-famous person in St. Louis.
That's it.
He really was.
And
he didn't do anything
not
for
to
it.
not to mention he could get any girl he wanted. Any girl. He's just a good-looking guy with a great personality.
It's funny you say that, Check.
Total package.
So I've known Brian a long time, but just a couple months ago, heading up to this Francis Park pickleball courts with Denise, my wife,
Of course.
and
Pickleball story.
and it's not a pickleball story; it's a Brian McKenna story.
How much you had to throw pickleball in?
Brian never played pickleball. Don't tell me he fucking played pickleball.
He said he wanted to start, but anyway, we're walking to the courts, and I talked to Brian, and I say, "Hey, Brian," and I introduce him to my wife, and in a 2-minute time period, we walk away, and after meeting my wife, and he exchanged very few words with my wife, whatever. He leaves, and we get on the court. My wife says, "Who is that?" I go, "It's Brian McKenna." She goes, "What a sweetheart."
Yep.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
in 2 minutes, and that's it. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and so his favorite saying is, boys,
Those attract my.
Your vibe attracts your tribe.
your vibe
So-
attracts your tribe.
And that always reminded me of when I was a child. My dad would always say, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you who you are."
Exactly.
And that's
there
the
you
same
go.
kind of a feeling.
So I must be Casper the Ghost.
Why is that? See, trying to do a little tribute to Brian McKenna, and you just can't help yourself.
He would appreciate it.
Oh yeah,
he would appreciate it.
And that's the one thing is, I got into, the rabbit hole of watching all the videos that came out about Brian, on the newscast and whatnot, and it would tear you up a little bit, but it would also make you laugh,
Right, 100%.
because
Yeah.
that's how he was. And when you're thinking about, what he would want us to be like, it was just carry on and have fun and laugh
100%.
and help people out.
Yeah.
Never
And
took a day for
he-
granted. The day that he was There was a charity fundraiser for him when he was battling that cancer, and on Nottingham Avenue, he was out, greeting people. Did
In
you
the rain.
did you see in the rain during the COVID?
Yep.
Did you
Yeah.
see? I mean, he greeted every human being in the rain. No, he's just a different person.
You know, I have a different.
And your point, Danny, he was one of those guys. I'm not that guy. He met you. He remembered your name.
100%.
I can give you. He met my wife one time. We picked some food up at a Mexican restaurant on Hampton there, right at Nottingham. He said, well, "Who you?" I said, "Mary's out the car, or my wife's out in the car." He came out, gave her a hug. "Mary, how are you?" And just bullshitted like they've known each other for 100 years. Yeah.
That's a knack.
I mean, one of a kind guy, and he's definitely gonna be missed, man.
Doesn't even seem real
Kudos
to me.
you guys for bringing him up and.
No,
doing
he
what you're
deserves
doing.
it, and,
He's a good
Well, the brighter
dude,
side
man.
of blue wouldn't be here without his advice and his leadership.
I've got a memory though. It's when Bob Stanzi got killed.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and
100%.
and we were in the procession going to Resurrection Cemetery, and Jen Jackson was with me, and she was Bob's old partner. So it was really emotional. But we get up there, we make that left turn on the McKenzie from Watson, and Brian's standing out there by himself. There's nobody
Yes, he
with
was.
him.
Yes, I remember that.
And he had this big sign that said "Police officers are heroes," and it still gives me chills because
Me too.
you just stand there.
That's right, Johnny.
You remember that check? I remember it like it was yesterday.
I do.
I do too.
I forgot about that. He was all by himself.
All
You're
by
right,
himself.
John.
Didn't ask a bunch of people to come. Didn't want. He's just by himself with the sign.
John, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to bring that up, and I zoned out after
He loved the
last story.
police.
But his twin brother, who
Was the police.
was the police, and
Yeah.
I know he's just
Kevin.
the whole family.
And Kevin was one of my classmates, and
Kevin is such a good dude, and I
great
feel
kid.
so bad for
And
him.
Brian never. I mean, his charisma was just infectious. You know, when you saw him, you smiled. And he had this, and he had his pot, and you got his little live. He did a live
Facebook
with
Babs.
Babs, and I don't know Babs' real name, but then you could see the genuine love they had for each other,
Yeah,
and they would
Right.
just have fun, and it was one of those things that if you were just passing through Facebook, you couldn't help but to stop and watch them.
right.
And it was just that kind of thing that he did for everybody he met. He made everybody he met feel special,
100%.
and it was
No doubt.
one of the things that and I told JJ this story earlier, and back in the day, they a lot of people used to mistake me for Jeff Fisher, and,
Coach of the Rams.
the coach of the Rams. And,
Yeah.
they would rather look like
I've been
Sean-
playing golf with you. People were yelling at you.
Well, yeah, remember that?
Yeah.
We were coming up the fairways of Norwood, and there was a bunch of workers on the green, and they stopped working and they're just staring at me. I was like, "What the hell's going on?" And I kept walking. They're like, "Hey, coach! Hey, coach! How you doing, coach?" I was like, "Oh,
That's a
Jeff
true
Fisher."
story. That is a true
And,
story.
That's great.
but anyway, so Brian thought I looked like Jeff Fisher too, and he told his friend, so it was a 12:00 game, so we come out at 3, and he told one of his tailgate buddies because he knew where we were always tailgating, and he told one of his buddies, he goes, "I think I can get Jeff Fisher to come out to the lot afterwards." And his buddies, they're all busted up after the game, and he comes over, it's like 4:30, and he's like, "Hey, Tommy." He goes, "Come over here." He goes, "I got my buddy. I told my buddy that I could get Jeff Fisher to come out after the show." He goes, "Just walk up in about 15 minutes." And he goes, so and then if I put sunglasses on, I really look like him. So I put some sunglasses on and I walk over there, and he's like, "Hey, coach." And I was like, "Hey, Brian, how you doing, buddy?" And his buddy was just astounded. He's like, "You got to be shitting me." So I walk up, and I'm with my son. And I'm shaking hands, and then his other buddies know that I'm not Jeff Fisher, but they know that I look close enough. And this guy, he was hook, line, and sinker for like 5 minutes until his other buddies finally gave it up and go, "Dude,
It's not
how many
Jeff
beers
Fisher."
did you have?" But I used to get that all the time.
That's
Bang.
good.
It was the grocery
Right.
store. Hey,
He
So
had a great
Tommy,
sense of humor.
tell a little bit about I like what you called it, Brian McKenna's route, Southside route.
oh, the boozing route.
Yeah,
He had a South Side
social route.
It's a social route, yeah. But he hit the Mac, What do we got? Pueblo Solis was that was his
Hampton.
top spot, right?
Stands.
That was another one.
Bono's.
Bono's Pizza. And I'm sure there was other
The
ones.
Mac.
The Mac. But Brian, if you'd walked in there,
And then Twigs, and then home.
he was
South City.
And that
He was South City.
Yeah, he was like
Yeah, he
being
was.
back. You know, he was, and the one thing we're forgetting is the Heroes Network. We didn't mention that, and he's involved with the Heroes Network with Charlie Metzger, the son of
That's right, Tommy.
Lieutenant Metzger, who was a firefighter, and I saw that he donated when Nathan Speece got hurt. And they did that fundraiser for him on GoFundMe, and Charlie Metzger put in
$1,500.
That's all right. You're there, Tommy.
No, I tried to say Metzger 5 times and screwed it up. But anyway, Charlie put in $1,500, and
Yeah, he did.
that was impressive. And that's Charlie and Brian are probably the same kind of guys. Do anything to help each other. I don't know Charlie that well, but Brian always talked very highly of Charlie.
Yeah.
And just in that organization, you know, they got. You got to have. The volunteers that are involved in that organization, they all have the same goal, and they get big hearts. And that's one thing Brian was, I don't know how many volunteer organizations you could get into.
But he was testing the limits.
Oh, he was trying to set a record, wasn't he, Tommy?
Yeah, no, without question. Yeah. Again, it goes to his big heart and his willingness to help people.
Yeah.
He didn't care what it was. He just did it. And
Let's do a cheers up to from the brighter side of the blue to Brian McKenna. You will be missed, and I know you're looking over to us, all your friends,
Dearly
in the
missed.
podcast. And cheers.
We love you.
Cheers.
Love you, brother.